Hey there, GCC Youth. So, we've missed seeing you guys over the past few weeks, but hopefully we'll be able to meet again soon. But until then, we do want to continue our Christmas series called Christmas Lights. So to go along with that, let's just talk Christmas for a second. For many of us, Christmas has this power over you where you just want to have all the feelings, all the food, all the decorations, sentimental movies, that sort of thing, friends and family, and just all the stuff that the Christmas season could possibly offer. And for me, honestly, I want every Christmas, including the one we're about to celebrate, to be the best Christmas ever. The rest of the year, I might have lower expectations, but this time of year, I want the season to just really shine. And maybe you feel this way too. Your family feels like you haven't gone 5 minutes without arguing in 10 years, but at Christmas time, you imagine sitting around the Christmas tree, listening to Christmas music, drinking hot chocolate, smiles everywhere, or something like that. But something about Christmas makes many of us dream big. It makes us raise our expectations and imagine having the best Christmas ever. But, isn't it true that our expectations are hardly ever met at Christmas? It feels like sometimes something is bound to disappoint us. And because we expect so much, that disappointment hurts that much more, which is why many of us instead try to keep expectations in all of life low. Just think about it for a second. If you think your team is going to lose the football game, and then they lose, isn't that a lot easier to take that loss than if you were convinced they were going to win? Or what if you're waiting for your grades to show up at the end of the semester and you think you're going to get a low C in English? Think how much better it is when you get that low B, okay? If you think the vacation time with your family, maybe over the summer, is going to be full of frustration and fighting 100% of the time, and all you're going to be doing is wishing you were with your friends instead. But then it turns out that the fighting and the frustration is really only maybe 20% of the time, then you're pleasantly surprised at how enjoyable that time with your family turned out to be, right? So it seems that it's great not to expect too much. But what about expectations when it comes to our faith? We might pray, but rarely do we think God will do exactly what we're asking for. We would say we'd have faith, but the truth is we're just not sure God is going to show up and act the way we think he should, because God never seems to do what we expect him to do, sometimes. And when that happens over and over, eventually it just becomes easier to just stop expecting so much. And so just what does it look like to lower our expectations for God? Well, for one, maybe you stop praying because you believe God either can't or he won't do anything. Or you lose interest in anything faith-related because God seems distant, he seems far away, maybe even uncaring to you. Perhaps you think God is weak and that he's unable to do anything big or powerful. And then maybe you just think God is uninterested. He doesn't know or care about anything in our lives. So why bother telling him about it or expecting him to do anything in our lives? We don't always do it on purpose, though. We usually just kind of become this way. And then if God does answer our prayer, if he does show up, if he does do what we ask him to do, then great. It's just that pleasant surprise. But to set out with expectations like that is not the best idea. And I don't know about you, but that kind of God also doesn't sound like something to celebrate at Christmas. So what if we got him all wrong? What if we were missing the point and there was a better way, a more realistic way, a healthier way to see God that, if we really understood, would actually make this the best Christmas ever? Okay, so what's the point? What is God really like here? Well, here's some good news. We're not the first ones to have expectations of God and have him not meet those expectations. In fact, the Christmas story, the story we're celebrating for the next couple of weeks, didn't happen at all like people expected it would. And that may sound strange to say because the story may be familiar to you. So to imagine it going any different would be weird because you're familiar with the story. But the truth is, 2,000 years ago, there's no way they were imagining God sending his son the way that he did. But before we go any further, we'll get a refresher on the details of the Christmas story itself for you. So you got Mary, the mother of Jesus. She was young, pregnant, a Jewish teenager, not yet married. And she and Joseph, the man she was engaged to be married to, did not have a lot of money and were living in a land occupied by the Roman Empire. And at the start of the story, the Roman government has decided they want to have a count of all the people they're ruling. So every family was told to go to the town where they're originally from to be counted. So Mary, who was pregnant, has to get on a donkey and make a hot and dry and miserable trip to get to the town where Joseph's family came from, to Bethlehem. Now, once they get there to Bethlehem, all the hotels are full. Joseph, he forgot to book the Airbnb or go on hotel.com apparently. And now, well, Mary isn't just super pregnant and tired and uncomfortable. Now she also has nowhere to sleep. And then, just because there wasn't enough going on that was wrong already, Mary goes into labor. This baby's coming soon. Here, now, far away from their home, with no bed to sleep in or to put a baby in. Now, I know things were different 2,000 years ago. I know there was a different culture back then for that time and place, but I can promise you this. It does not matter what culture you're from or what time you're living in. This situation is less than ideal. Actually, it stinks. And actually, it literally stank. Because in Joseph's desperation to find this place for Mary to have this baby, the only thing that he could find was a barn with animals. And the smell that comes with those animals, some of you know, you just know. And so that's where they ended up. That's where Mary had her first child, away from her family, away from her home, away from anything comfortable. She had her baby, just her and Joseph, completely alone. And no one expected this. In fact, if I had been Mary or Joseph, I would have been much more likely to think that God didn't care, or that he forgot about me, or that he just didn't have time for me during this time. Because if God doesn't do what we think he should, if God doesn't behave like we expect him to, then if we don't know God, it kind of makes sense to assume we've done something wrong. We start questioning things. In fact, chances are there were a lot of people who already thought those things about God long before he sent his son to be born in a barn. Because for hundreds of years, God had been silent. There were no prophets with messages from God. There was no sign of being freed from the empire that ruled them. There's no indication that God even cared about them anymore, let alone that he was doing anything. And so it seemed like God was nowhere to be found, just kind of MIA. But that was until an angel showed up to tell Joseph exactly what God was like, exactly what God was going to be like when he arrived. And so let's talk about it. This is what the angel said to Joseph. He said, "She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." And all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet, "The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel," which means God with us. And that's in Matthew 1:21 through 23. So they expected a warrior, a ruler, even a punisher of enemies, a king, someone to take charge. And they were disappointed because their expectations did not meet reality. But the truth is, they got something far better. They got a God who was with them, not someone in a palace, but a barn, meaning he wasn't an out-of-reach ruler. He was an accessible and reachable God. So I want you to get this first. This is important. Our God is an accessible and reachable God. Listen, he's not out of touch. He's not MIA. He is available, ready to be with us, and he is near. God with them was an idea that they didn't expect, but it was an idea that changed everything. God with us means that no matter what, we're never alone. No matter our behavior, our good or bad days, no matter our family situation, our financial status, no matter what we've done that we are proud of or even embarrassed of, he is with us. So what I want you to remember is this: no matter what, God is with us. God is with you, and God is with me. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It started with Christmas, but it continues to be true because of Jesus' death on the cross, his resurrection, and then his leaving the Holy Spirit to be with us forever. And that's how he's with us. In other words, the Spirit of God lives in us as a reminder that we're never alone. So when you think of God with us, it changes things. It should change everything. What it means is that no matter your reality, no matter what's going on in your life, God is with you in it, no matter what. You know, your family, they may seem super dysfunctional. God is with you. Maybe your dating life isn't what you may want it to be. God's with you. You're failing geometry. Hey, God is with you. Didn't get the part you wanted in the play or the part on the team. God's with you. You're scared about what's happening in the world right now. Listen, God is with you. God is with us. You're not alone in this. You aren't left to figure things out on your own and all the annoying and scary stuff and the stuff you worry about all alone. You have God with you. Jesus changed the way we saw God. He gave us a new way to understand God and relate to him. In fact, in John chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus said this about himself. He said, "I am the light of the world." You know, light helps you see what you didn't see before, which is exactly what Jesus did for us with God. The light helps us know what to expect from God and who he is. Some of you watching right now, maybe you've ignored the light that needs to be turned on so that you can know just how good and present God is. Hey, he's there. And you might be asking, so what? God's with me. What can I do with that? For you, it might just mean one thing. Find one way this week to keep reminding yourself that God's with you. Maybe it's simple as writing a note in your phone or asking someone like a leader or a trusted friend or adult to help remind you. Or, maybe you've known that God is with you, so try reminding someone else this week that God is with them. Here's the thing. When you know God is with you and you know He's promised never to leave, it is far more difficult to be disappointed in Him, because that's a promise He will never break. And Christmas is the best time to take a second look at the way we see God and the way we see ourselves and the people around us, and then to let Jesus shine this light on the amazing promise that can never be broken. And that promise is that the God of the universe came down to earth to show you that He loves you, to show you that He cares about you, and to show you that He is always with you.